After releasing the first part of this video, which summed up some of the most popular cinema lenses currently used to photograph feature films and commercials, there have been some requests in the comments for a part 2. So today I'll cover a few more lenses, breaking down their ergonomics, as well as their look, using footage from some contemporary films. Once again, I'll lead with a disclaimer that I'm not a lens technician well versed in the technical side of optics. My observations come from having worked with these lenses as a camera assistant, and therefore I'll be looking at my experiences from working practically with this glass and comment on what kind of shoot each lens is typically suited for. This video was made possible by the fans on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and get early access to these videos, please consider supporting by following the link in the description. Cooke began producing the original spherical speed Panchro lenses in England way back in 1920. Their extremely fast T2 to T2.4 prime lenses revolutionized the optics of the time, which were typically far slower. These faster lenses quickly became popular as they let in more light and negated the use of large arc lamps, which had a noisy buzz and was therefore difficult to record sync sound with. The lenses themselves are tiny compared to modern glass, meaning they don't always cover larger modern sensors without vignetting. They come in different series, S1, S2 or S3, depending on when they were manufactured. Since PL mounts only became standard in the 1980s, this has meant that these little lenses needed to be rehoused with a new mount to be usable with modern cinema cameras. This is where the original glass is taken out and put into a new case or housing. As such, the usability and ergonomics of each set is dependent on how well they were rehoused. Some companies do it better than others, making some sets difficult for camera assistants to work with and some easier. A good rehousing, such as by TLS in the UK for example, makes the lenses user-friendly with a smooth focus motion. As a side note, the Speed Panchro should not be confused with Cooke's modern Panchro I Classic lenses, which attempt to emulate these older lenses, but with more modern glass. The Speed Panchros have amazing close focus. The 32mm in particular has a close focus of only 16 inches, which means that you can focus almost all the way up to the matte box and still get very tight shots in focus with a wide lens. Despite having a wide aperture, the lenses were only recommended to be shot at T4, which is where they start becoming sharp across the image. Breaking this rule by shooting them wide open at T2.4 creates beautiful, painterly bokeh, which is sharp in the center with lots of fall off around the edges, almost like anamorphic glass. They have the characteristics of what has been termed the Cooke look, being warm and romantic but with slightly less contrast than that of the modern S4s. This vintage look has made them a popular choice for period films or for DPs who want a dreamy, vintage look to their images by shooting them wide open. As these lenses were made before standardized, precise factory production techniques were introduced for cinema lenses, the look of each lens may vary slightly, meaning that some lenses may be slightly warmer or have slightly different image characteristics, for example. Despite, or rather because of, their flaws, the Panchros remain one of my personal favorite spherical lenses. From old to new, the Master Primes were co-developed by Arri and Zeiss in 2005. These modern lenses feature a constant, super fast T1.3 aperture, all the way from their 12mm to their 150mm primes. They are masterfully engineered and well constructed, with a smooth focus motion, well laid out distance markings, with a standardized 114 front diameter. They aren't the most compact of spherical primes, but they are solidly constructed. Being standardized across the range makes them easy for assistants to work with when changing lenses or rebalancing a gimbal or stabilized head. Cinematographers who value clean, high-resolution, sharp images often choose these lenses. They were designed to be as sharp as possible to provide maximum clarity that counteracts shooting 35mm film. This sharpness is enhanced even more when applied to digital sensors. Even wide open at T1.3, the lenses maintain sharpness across the frame. They are notable for having virtually no distortion of straight lines, even at their widest focal lengths, and no focus breathing or aberrations. Master primes have medium to high contrast and drastically reduced flares. They're often used by DP shooting on film, or by those who require a perfect, optically superior digital image, which is totally devoid of vintage characteristics or optical imperfections. French manufacturer Angénieux has a long history of creating spherical zoom lenses. One of the staple zooms that is featured heavily on many modern films is the Optimo 24-290, which came out in 2001. This 12:1 workhorse zoom features incredibly high magnification at a fixed stop of t2.8 without any ramping, and a focus scale which remains accurate while zooming. For all of this to take place, a lot of glass is required, which means that the 24-290 is a big chunk of a lens, weighing in at around 11 kilograms. Its length and weight means that it has to be operated off a head and is unsuitable for any lightweight rigs or setups. It's used for shots that need an extremely long focal length, a crash zoom, or quick, flexible reframing capabilities, such as when working on a boat or somewhere when moving the camera around is difficult. Its varied focal lengths also makes it a good single lens for productions looking to save money on renting many prime lenses. It's a fairly sharp lens, very sharp for a slightly older zoom, but less sharp than many primes or modern zooms made today. At wider focal lengths such as 24mm, it does start to distort slightly, and it compresses the background at longer focal lengths with textbook round bokeh. It's been a workhorse for years in the film industry, mainly due to its versatile zoom range, solid build quality, and consistent optical design. After the success of Zeiss's superspeed lenses, which I covered in my previous video, Canon launched the K35s in the 70s and 80s to compete with them based on the glass from their existing SSC, aspherical, FD still lenses. They are, however, much rarer to find than the superspeeds. The K35s are similar to the superspeeds in many respects. They are compactly built, lightweight, and feature a fast t1.4 aperture. This makes them a good choice for light builds, such as handheld, gimbal, or drone work. Like the Panchros, K35 glass also sometimes comes rehoused with a PL mount in lens casings, which makes them ergonomically easier to work with. Unlike many vintage lenses which only cover Super 35 sensor sizes, the K35s can cover a broader, full-frame sensor. This capability of larger coverage has made them popular once again, with the resurgence of larger form factor digital sensors. On top of ergonomic similarities, these lenses also share visual similarities with the superspeeds. They are sharp, with a notably lower contrast than modern primes. Their flares are interesting and take on an orangey purple color. Like the superspeeds, the K35s have been used on films for a lower contrast look, and are sometimes even paired with the superspeeds, such as on The Handmaid's Tale, which was shot on the K35s, with select close-ups shot on wide-angle Zeiss glass. From one large format lens set to another more modern iteration, the Arri DNA primes are manufactured by Arri in Germany. To make these lenses, they custom selected old glass from Hasselblad still lenses, which would cover a 65mm or full frame sensor size. Arri worked in conjunction with a few cinematographers to tweak each set, such as Bradford Young and Greg Fraser. They are very fast for large format lenses, with stops ranging from t1.6 to t2.8 over a broad range of focal lengths. This fast aperture, combined with a large format digital sensor, creates an incredibly shallow depth of field, even when using wide focal lengths, which is beautiful but tricky for focus pullers. The DNAs are nicely rehoused and feature a smooth focus motion, a standardized front diameter, and well-spaced distance markings. They have an LDS connector, which means they can record metadata, a useful feature for VFX. An interesting quirk I picked up when I worked with them as an AC was that some of the lenses featured a reversed iris ring, meaning that some lenses had an iris ring reading from top to bottom, while others had irises which were reversed. The image they produce is stunning. They are sharp enough to capture detail in the skin without highlighting flaws, have a neutral color rendition, gorgeous skin tones with a beautiful focus fall-off, and swirling, dreamy, egg-shaped bokeh. So that's the end of another cinema lens breakdown video. There are still more lenses I'd like to cover at a later date in future episodes, as I'm a bit of a lens nerd. If you found this information informative or interesting, please give the video a thumbs up, and if you have any comments, let me know below. Until next time, thanks for watching, and goodbye.